have you recently been thinking about importing some plants? I know it's the colder months now, but this is the time when a lot of people just like, ooh, should I get some new planty friends? If you are, stick around with me, and in this video I'll tell you which plants have shipped relatively well to me and which ones have bounced back quite nicely, hopefully making your decision a bit easier when it comes to purchasing some plants from abroad. Hi, my name is Memo, this is my channel, Houseplantygoodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion. You might be able to see some of it behind me, it's tropical houseplants. So as I said, I want to go through a few of the plants in this video that did really well for me when it came to shipping. As most of you might already know, I've done quite a few unboxing videos that I will kind of link a playlist at the top there from different plant shops. Some that are domestic, some that are international. But by and large, not all plants are built the same. And if you've ever bought anything online, whether or not it's domestic or international, you will know that some plants just don't fare as well during shipping. But some do really well through shipping. Some that might be a bit more huffy with shipping will bounce back later on. So I just want to show you a few of the plants that have done really well for me in hopes that when you come to deciding certain plants that you might want to purchase online, whether it is domestic or international, you might be better kind of equipped in terms of going, maybe this one, or I'm prepared for this one. This is not to actually put anybody off getting other types of plants that might have not have done so well, but more to give you some information to just kind of go, ooh, if that one ships well, then I don't have to stress about it too much. Now, I will give you the biggest caveat in the world for this video to say these have been my personal experiences with these plants. Before anybody says down in the comments below, this plant didn't do well shipping for me. Yes, correct. It can be different, depends on the time of the year that you're purchasing and all of the above, but these are the ones that did well for me. Also depends on who you're purchasing from, what the packaging is like, if there's been any issues, if there have been any delays, what about the courier that's brought it in. This video would ignore most of that. It's just going to show you what has worked for me. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Starting off strong with a philodendron, and this, for the uninitiated, hopefully if I show you the backs, you might have a good idea about which one it is. This is the Philodendron atabapoense. Sometimes I think it's also been called the Santa Leopoldina. And now this plant I got as part of a rescue box from Kaylee Ellen and the Rare Plant Shop. And to be fair, this shipped beautifully. It had no issue, it bounced back quite quickly, and it started growing quite vigorously. You might be able to see, like right there, that's one of the aerial roots has gone through the moss pole and is just hanging out in the sky at the moment. This is rooting in really, really well. But this one did not skip a beat. Really, it did not skip a beat. This is like a cutting that I took from a mother plant, which I cannot bring down. It is way too buried in other things. And yes, I have heard all of you. I will be doing an updated tour of my space, and hopefully that tour might make it clear as to why some of these plants are not easy to move. Because if I bring everything down that I want to show you, I'll be spending 2 to 3 hours taking plants down and putting plants back up, and I don't have no time for that on the Saturday. So I will show you what things I can pick up easily. Anything that I can't, I will put pictures. But yes, this one did really, really, really well and really didn't skip a beat. I will say, and I've said this before about this plant, is this one of my fastest philodendrons? No, not even by a long shot. I have found that the atabapoense, even on a moss pole, can be a bit slow in its growth habit, but no problem whatsoever. Absolutely none. How about an anthurium now? So let me bring it in so you can kind of see the loveliness that is these leaves. And you might be able to see right there, there is a new leaf coming through. Even now when things have started slowing down, even now when anthuriums aren't really living their best lives, by and large, not all of them. And let me just get the label because I got corrected on my previous video when I mentioned this plant. Now this was an unboxing again from a local shop, and this was from Grow Tropicals in the UK, and this is the Anthurium radicans x luxurians. And I know that there was a lot of people that were debating whether or not this was a Anthurium luxurians x radicans, because apparently there is, I did not know this. I love the fact that you all school me as well, it's fantastic. That apparently there's a difference in the way that the plants look depending on how the parentage is, if that makes sense. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, the first name, so in this case, the Anthuriums radicans x luxurians, so the radicans bit, I think, I might be wrong, might be the pollen parent, and the luxurians, which is the second one, second part of the name, is the female parent, basically. So I'm not entirely sure, I've got those the wrong way around, but there is a very specific order on kind of which one is the pollen parent and which one isn't. And it can, morphologically, so the appearance of the plant, make it look different. However, the thing I will say, and I will agree with everybody online, whether or not I've got the radicans x luxurians or whether or not I've got the luxurians x radicans, I think both of those plants, everybody was kind of saying they just keep on trucking on, they keep doing their thing, absolutely no problem. This has consistently been growing for me. It's got multiple growth points. There's actually one more little emerging leaf. I don't think you're going to be able to see it. Possibly, you might be able to see some down there. There's two actually. There's 1, 2, 3. There's actually multiple pups in this. Really, really well. Even in the winter, even after shipping when I got this, it didn't skip a beat, it just kept growing. This leaf that has got the smallest cosmetic damage at the top there was its shipping leaf, and it was as soft and new as this when it came to me, and you wouldn't be able to tell. You absolutely would not be able to tell. So if you're thinking of more of these corrugated type plants, and I know a lot of people are looking for the luxurians, and I've grown a luxurians and I've almost killed a luxurians. The luxurians is currently propagating in the propagation bin, and it went from a very large plant to this much now, and it's doing okay. But it's going to be a while before it gets to this size again. It's fine. It's fine. Am I salty? Maybe a little bit. But much easier, and I can understand now why everybody and their mother essentially is kind of going, go for luxurians. Hybrids maybe don't necessarily go for the species. The species can be a bit challenging. I still like the species. I still think I prefer the species over the hybrids, but the hybrids do bring this corrugation. That's the point I'm trying to make. If you're going to go for a corrugated one, go for one of these two, at least in my humblest of opinions, based on the example of one and my experience specifically. This one's easier, this one's okay, and this one ships okay as well, so this one has got the seal of my approval. How about one that I haven't talked about in a long time? I mean, like, can we, the size of these petioles. So let me put it down because I can, this plant is tall enough that I can show you, and I'm trying to remember now the name. Give me a sec. Oh yeah, I don't know why this one actually out of all of the plants makes the most amount of like logical sense to me. So this, I'm trying to like move the leaf around so you might be able to see it, and it kind of goes up as well. So it's kind of really, really cool. It goes up that way. This is the Anthurium lancea. Lancea. Absolutely stinking fantastic plant. You might be able to see that leaf a bit better there. Oh. And let me show you the newest leaf that it has. I will put my, can't even get it low enough for me to do a head test. This should tell you something. There you go. So head test, how about a head test for that? Super amazing, and for the eagle-eyed amongst you, you might also be able to see a new leaf emerging. By far, one of my easiest anthuriums. And I know this isn't going to be it for everybody because the fact that I'm putting it down and again all you can see is petioles is a thing, so this does grow tall. But anybody that wants kind of a bit of an architectural plant, especially if you're going to put other bushier plants around it to cover all of this height, and you want to get some really interesting leaves, I think this may, I'm not the most stylish of people, but like for me, this is quite an architectural plant. If you get it in the right place, this could actually be a bit of a wow situation because it's that simplicity of those long petioles and the leaves themselves, and I'll bring it in a bit closer whilst I try not to spill my coffee down. But there is also some texture, and hopefully you can kind of see that on this plant. There's a really interesting bit of texture on this plant. But the point I'm trying to make is for shipping, this shipped spectacularly well. I think it maybe lost one leaf. This was from Ecuador, if I'm not mistaken. This shipped really, really, really well, and the roots were really good, and it didn't take a lot of time to bounce back. And again, is this a plant that is fast growing? No. By my anthurium standards, this isn't one that is a particularly fast growing anthurium. However, I mean, can we just? Consistent though, does not skip a beat. For the eagle-eyed again, you might have been able to see that this is in semi-hydro, so this is in the coarse semi-hydro mix from Soil Ninja. Really, really well, really, really impressive plant. I'm kind of trying to see here if there's any like pests on it as well. Let me know if you want me to do a review on this plant and I will happily do that. But yeah, this is one that I would highly recommend. See, you know, people that have been here for a while know what I'm doing. I'm doing plant care whilst I'm talking to you, because like any opportunity I have to see a plant or pick up a plant is a time when I'm just going to be like, right, caterpillars can come off, browning leaves can come off, pests might need to be checked. Yeah. It's the reality of having a collection of this size. But yes, the Anthurium lancea is one that I would highly, highly recommend. It did really well in shipping, did not skip a beat. Right, how about a very, very large plant? Still kind of looking at pests on it going, oh no, I need to deal with you. Right, this plant, and you might be able to see this newest leaf, and let me just do a head test for you. I'm not going to be able to move it closer to you because it is currently sitting on all of the furniture that I have got because it's that large. It's almost all the way down to the ground, it's my height. So that is its newest leaf. For the person that I swapped with at the London plant swap, this is the heleniae, the Philodendron heleniae, subspecies heleniae, that not a lot of people have heard of, but let me see if I can just quickly give you a kind of look-see in terms of the height of this plant. Let me also just get like a bit of stability going on it, just so that it can make everybody's life a bit easier. And by everybody, I mean my life a bit easier. Nice, nice. Right, so let me see if I can lift it up, this, without me like decapitating it onto the fan. That's how small the pot is. That's the leaves. Does this grow a bit lanky? Yes, but you can chop and prop this until the cows come home. I'm actually going to have to deal with the pests on this one at some point. But yes, this is a plant that shipped really, really well for me. Not one that a lot of people have heard of, but paddly leaves. It can get some height. I would imagine if I gave this a moss pole, and I might do at some point in the future, it would do really, really well. Now, what am I going to do with this plant? Do I want to? Yes. You know what? Why? No, I was just about to chop and prop it. No. I don't have any space and I don't have any time and I'm going to be away for like the next weekend, so no. This video is slightly more chaotic than normal, sorry, it's just taken me a moment to realize this. Fantastic plant, did really well in shipping. I think this was another Ecuador purchase. Did exceptionally well in shipping, actually came to me almost pristine, did not skip a singular beat. Has grown consistently and fast for me, and I have to say this is one that I wasn't expecting to be. Would I put this up with the Esmeraldense behind me? Yes, potentially. Also, I don't know whether or not you're going to be able to see it, but right there, maybe, there we go, so many leaves in front of it, is the inflorescence of the Esmeraldense. One of the three is actually open at the moment. But yes, this is one, that had I not have known it, and now that I've had it in my collection, probably top 10 plants for me right now, this one, believe it or not. And I'm saying, I was comparing to the Esmeraldense because my Esmeraldense is always going to be in my top 10, but same category of plants. I would 100% get this again. This is another one of those plants. It's just that if the building was burning down, which plants would you go back in to save? This would be one of them. Oh, yes. Like, I was kind of sitting there going, which one was I going to show them next? The obvious one, give me a sec. This would not be a plants that shipped well video without the Anthurium pinkleyi. It did exceptionally well, and it really heartens me to see because there's some new growth that is happening on here, and I did some pest management, and I think most of that was old pests. Wonderful. The plant pest video or kind of update of what I was trying recently, which I'll link at the top now, it's doing very, very well, just to give you a bit of an update on that one. So I'm glad that I kind of shared that information with you because everything that I'm taking off plants now is dead pests. Oh, dead mealybugs. Oh. But it does worry you a bit because I'm just like, is that still alive? No, it isn't. It is dead. But yeah, no, this is doing really, really well. And it took to that exceptionally well. But yes, the point I'm trying to make is this one ships fantastically. And I mean, look at these leaves. The leaves are what this is all about. And can we take a moment to appreciate how bushy this plant is? That plant has only realistically been, I think, in my collection about a year now, maybe a year and a half. Super, super, super fun plant. Didn't struggle at all with shipping. This was another Ecuagenera purchase, if I'm not mistaken. Again, one that not a lot of people have heard of. But with pests, with being in semi-hydro, and some other anthuriums didn't like semi-hydro too much, this one took to it like nothing you would ever believe. This is done really well, really well. Bounce back, didn't really have much of a bounce back. It just kept growing as if it hadn't just been shipped internationally to me, and kept growing and kept creating pups within the pot as well. And it's just not had any issues, barring the pests. But the pests are less about this plant. The problem is it's too close to a lot of other plants that have got pests. And this one didn't have any pests, even with that happening for over a year. It's only just recently that the pests just went, oh yes, this is just a new treat for us. We go for this one now, yes? But yeah, this is one that I would hands down recommend in terms of it ships really, really well. The leaves are leathery. Like, can you understand, like some of these plants that I'm showing you, they've actually got quite thick leaves. The stems are quite thick as well. It grows, this is another one that if I gave it maybe a moss pole or a collar, would it do a lot better? Probably. But yeah, this one I can 100% recommend. And I know, as I said, it's heartening because this was actually one of the gifts at the London plant swaps, which again, I did a video, I'll link it at the top. But yeah, and I was so happy to see that people are kind of getting into the Anthurium pinkleyi. Oh, such a plant that is well worth it in my experience. And you know me, I don't always go for the really popular plants, and I will try the kooky, weird, like cousins. But for me, if the plant works well, that's all I need it to do. And if it grows well, and if it's not particularly fussy, I ain't got no time. I mean, look at all this. I ain't got no time to sit there and baby plants. That used to be Memo from like a few years back when I had the time and I had less plants. Right now, I just need things that's like, for lack of better words, plug and play. Like, there you go, you're in my space now. Keep doing what you need to do. I'll keep watering you, and if you don't survive, you don't survive. I'm sorry, I tried-ish. It's tried as much as I'm going to, really, with most plants these days. But yes, Anthurium pinkleyi definitely got my seal of approval when it comes to shipping. And let's finish off with a Syngonium. I think this is a Syngonium Strawberry Shake, and you can barely see some of the strawberry shakiness that is happening right there. It's that kind of white variegation with a bit of pink pulling through. Is this a plant for those that are impatient? No, this is possibly one of my slowest growing Syngoniums ever. Is it as consistent as other Syngoniums? Yes, it's consistent in its slowness, but you know, it is what it is. I always keep like unfurling slightly the newest leaves to just go, ooh, is there any variegation? No, is the answer to that. I always find that this does better as well in the winter. But yes, the point I'm trying to make with this one when it comes to shipping, because God forbid I stay on topic, is it does really, really, really well. Like, it didn't have any issues. To be fair to not just this plant, but all Syngoniums, generally I find that they ship relatively well. You might get a couple of like broken leaves, but the plant isn't stressed. The plant will just keep on keeping on, and it will just keep growing. So Syngoniums are usually a good, safe bet. And I would always recommend going for a Syngonium if it's the first time you're going to be shipping internationally, or if it's maybe the first time that you're buying online and you're getting plants shipped to you rather than going in the stores. Definitely try something like a Syngonium, because you won't be disappointed. But let's do some final thoughts. I can always add more to this I can make this into a bit of a series if you really are curious about which plants have shipped well for me. I could even do a spin-off video of this, being the plants that shipped badly for me. Spoiler, some of these might no longer be in the collection because they haven't survived, but I'm happy to talk about them as more of a cautionary tale if you wanted to. But by and large, if you are purchasing online, especially if you're ordering from abroad, there's loads of people. I think I've done a video on this as well. I know Kaylee Ellen, for instance, has done a video. I'm pretty sure most of your favorite YouTubers out there have done a video about shipping or importing, and you've probably seen this. There are a lot of things that a lot of people would suggest. My 2 cents with this is go for plants. If it's going to be your first time, and this is part of the reason why I did this video, is go for a plant that you know from other people has shipped well for them, just so you don't have a really sour experience if it's going to be the first time that you're shipping plants in. By and large, a lot of the monsteras will do relatively well in terms of shipping. The Syngoniums that I was showing you before, if you're a bit of a Hoya head and you like your Hoyas generally will do quite well. And the reality is with a Hoya, even if the roots are all mangled, you could start off again quite easily because there's a lot of energy left in those really, really succulent leaves. But trialing some of these plants that you know are not going to be a problem, especially if it's going to be your first one, is the way that I would go. As I said, there's a lot of other advice to people out there, so I'm not going to hash over the same things as everybody else. But yeah, go for things that you know are going to work, and go for some of the online shipping that a lot of other people are using. So I'll give you a very quick little example and I'll finish off. I've actually had a few people sell, and this is not a shade to any of the sellers from like the Far East, but a lot of them might reach out to me. It's interesting, there's predominantly people from the Far East that are reaching out to me kind of saying, look, we would love to send you plants so you could maybe do an unboxing and review and kind of expose your audience to kind of us and what we do. And I'm more than happy to do that, because hopefully I might find some new sellers from us all to purchase from. The reason why you have never seen those videos on my channel is, and this might be specific to the UK, and this is probably going to be more, I do this more for my UK audience, and I know that's like not necessarily the majority of you. I think the majority of you tend to be in the US or Canada. But when it comes to the UK at least, a lot of the sellers from the Far East, and I think to a certain point companies like Equigenera do this, but they've done that part for you, because I don't know if people know, when you're shipping in from Equigenera, at least in the UK, they will come to a seller that they work with here. I think it's Spiceotics, I might be wrong, or kind of as a bit of an intermediary, and then they will then ship that. So they will all arrive to that one central point, that one central business, and then that one will then disseminate it out to the rest of Europe. I know the European Equigenera is different. I think they've got a base there anyway. But that's something that a lot of the Asian sellers don't necessarily have, and it's a shame that they don't all work together a bit more, if they could, to find that one central point in the UK to do this. Because, and this is a very long way of me explaining, when I got contacted by a lot of these Asian sellers, and again, this is not a shade, this is just the reality of the legal situation, and it's also my kind of hard limits for you, my audience, basically, where they're like, oh, you need to get all these paperworks, and the paperwork that you need to do, I don't think is necessarily expensive, and I don't think it's even that much of a hassle, but it's essentially claiming to the UK government that I work as a grower or a reseller and all these things, just so I can get some plants in. And my question always to these sellers is, would my audience, if they're going to be purchasing from you, have to do the same thing? And they're just like, yes, unfortunately, that's how the situation is for right now. And I'm just like, and that makes sense, but I'm not willing to do that. And if I'm not willing to do that, because I've said this story before from another friend who did this, and then eventually she had somebody from the government coming in to do an inspection in her house, and she's just like, what? And she'd forgotten that she'd done this. I don't feel comfortable promoting that to you, my audience, especially the people in the UK, because it's a pain. It's a pain, and why would you do it when there's better options out there? Did I miss out on some really cool plants several times? Yes, but it is what it is. It's too much of an ask, I think, and that's why, and I think we've all been spoiled with companies like Ecuagenera. I know there's issues that some people have with Ecuagenera, and I'm not going to divulge, I'm not going to go into detail in this video about that one, but at least that bit they've got right, because you, the person that is purchasing, isn't having to deal with all of that bureaucracy. There is that intermediate, as I said, I think it might be Spiceotics, I might be wrong, that deals with that. So it's a seamless process of you go online, you purchase, you pay, there's a wait of however long it needs to be, but pretty much you can track it's arrived in the UK, it gets released to that intermediate person or business, and then it comes out to you the next day. You don't have to worry about any of the paperwork. And that paperwork being done by that intermediate who is a planty business, great. That's how it needs to be, at least in my experience, for it to work well. Obviously, I would imagine that intermediate gets a cut of the sales or whatever, but it is what it is, and it means less paperwork for everybody else. In this day and age, when everybody's just used to going online, purchasing and getting it without having to do a whole bunch of faff, that is the reality of this situation. But wow, that was a big tangent for a final thought. But hopefully, I know sometimes a lot of you like to peek behind the curtain, so to speak, with these things and kind of understand what some of us YouTubers deal with. And this is me letting you see behind the curtain, so to speak. But yes, hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon. And I truly, truly hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.